Tonight we heard another eloquent speech from President Obama in which he mostly talked about the deficit, jobs, and spending. My concern is that it was nothing more than that, just talk. With all due respect to the President, talk is cheap, but we got to act, and that's what the American people want us to do. Now tonight we heard similar language regarding the deficit as his speech last year. The President's proposal is to freeze non-security discretionary spending at the current levels for the next 5 years. As I said last year, it's not fiscally responsible to increase spending as the President has done over the past 2 years by around 20% and then freeze it. Instead, we should pull spending back to the levels where it was before, like '08, and then freeze it there. Earlier today, the House acted by passing a resolution that would reduce discretionary non-security spending back to the 2008 levels. I applaud them for that. And last March, I led the way to introducing similar legislation in the Senate, so I hope that we have a chance to consider that in the Senate as they did in the House. Though he paid lip service to the deficit and reducing government spending tonight, if you listen carefully, you heard the President's true agenda when he spoke of making investments. The word investments, it sounds real good, but that's really just a fancy word for saying increased government spending. Because it isn't his money, it's your money that we're talking about, the American people, the taxpayers. We've seen this type of investment before from President Obama and the Democrats in Congress. It was called their stimulus plan. Remember that? Stimulus plan, which, by the way, only strapped us with even more deficit spending. His initiatives for high-speed rail, improved internet access, more teachers, additional research, and the President's educational priorities would just mean increased spending. That sounds good, but it's increased spending. In the global marketplace, the American worker and the American economy must be free to compete. The best way to do that is to get government out of the way and let the private sector, the true engine behind our economy, do what it does best. That is, grow and create jobs. That means reforming government and ending government overregulation. Over the past 2 years, nearly every institution that has made this America great has come under attack by President Obama and his Democrat majority. The healthcare industry, the energy sector, the banking sector, the insurance sector, the automobile industry, and others have all had to endure the radical leftist agenda of the Obama administration. Reforming government, it must include ending the job-killing efforts of the Obama EPA to impose cap-and-trade taxes on consumers and employers through regulation. They couldn't do it. They couldn't get the votes to pass it through legislation, so they're trying to do it through regulation. It must also include repealing overly burdensome regulations, including Obamacare, like those requiring businesses to report all goods and service transactions valued at over $600 to the IRS. The new taxes and the penalties imposed on employers for those who cannot afford to provide health insurance only hurts job creation and economic growth. The House was right to vote to repeal the very unpopular measure, and I hope the Democrat leaders will allow us to have the similar vote. It'd be interesting to see how some of them vote. It also means reducing corporate taxes, which President Obama mentioned tonight. I hope he is sincere, and will take action to address America's corporate tax rate, one of the highest in the world. In the past, we've heard him talk about things like nuclear power, jobs, and free trade, but there has been little or no action. Tonight, President Obama rightfully praised the members of our military. Indeed, we are ever grateful for their service and the sacrifice to this nation. While President Obama has been quick to praise the success of our military in Iraq, it is important to remember, because you probably have forgotten this, it's important to remember that he was the one of the most outspoken critics of the troop surge that General Petraeus was trying to do in Iraq. And that led to the very successes he's now praising tonight. Having just returned from my 8th trip to Afghanistan, I witnessed firsthand the advances our troops have made, as well as the challenges still ahead. Unfortunately, President Obama continues to send mixed signals to our NATO allies, the Afghan people, Pakistan, and the Taliban in regard to our commitment there. After numerous discussions with Afghan and coalition personnel during my visit just last week, it was unanimous that setting an arbitrary timeline to begin withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan had a devastating effect on operations. It's got to be conditions on the ground that drive that, not politically driven dates that dictate any withdrawal or transition. If we're to succeed, and we will succeed in Afghanistan. Failure in Afghanistan would directly impact our national security in the long term. The President's speech tonight was touted as an agenda for winning the future for the American economy, for American jobs, and for American ideals won't be achieved by simply giving speeches. It takes action that ultimately gets government out of the way. As NFL coaching great Vince Lombardi once said, he said, "You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit, and we need to start winning through action, not talk. Eloquence is a wonderful thing. Action is greater." So let's try it once, okay?